Shalom, this is Levi Shore. Welcome back to Sweet Good Torah. We're going to learn about the holiday of Shavuot, Shavuos. It's the Zman Matan Torah, the time of the giving of the Torah. So what was it actually like to stand at Mount Sinai, at Har Sinai, and listen to an infinite being speak to us and give us the Torah? What was it like to hear the words of an infinite being? So we're going to get some help today from the Midrash Says, from Rabbi Moshe Weissman's incredible Sfarim, collection of all the Midrashim, and we're going to see what was it actually like to be there on the 6th of Sivan in the year 2448, as we are so many thousands of years later in the year 5780. We're waiting for the final Gula. What was it like to stand there at Mount Sinai and receive the Torah? And it's interesting that Hashem picked this humble little mountain in the middle of the Sinai desert. He could have picked Mount Everest, he could have picked the K2, he could have picked the highest and the most majestic of all the mountains, the Rockies, the Andes, all these huge mountain ranges. But Hashem chose this little humble mountain in the middle of the desert. And it's a mashal, it's a lesson to us, it's musar, that we should also make ourselves like a midbar, like a desert. We should clear out any of the ideas and preconceptions we have and go in humbly, like this little mountain. And we should humble ourselves when we listen to the words of the Torah. And that's how we will absorb most of the Torah, and that's how we'll learn how to do the mitzvos, and that's the lesson in this little mountain of Mount Sinai. All right, so let's see what it says. So Hashem waited 26 generations, and it's interesting that the gematria of the name, of Hashem's name, Yud Hey Vav Hey, is 26, and Hashem waits 26 generations from Adam Rishon, from Adam the first man, until the generation of Moshe to give us the Torah. So it's a Shabbos morning on the 6th of Sivan, and it was a short summer night. And Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, awoke to the sound of thunder and lightning on Har Sinai. And Moshe called to them, and he said, the Chasen, the groom, is waiting for the Kala, is waiting for the bride to come to the chuppah. And Moshe brought the people to Har Sinai, like leading the Kala to the chuppah, to the wedding. And the Jewish people assembled at the foot of the mountain. Those men and women were separated, and they were joined by all the millions of neshamas of all their descendants. We have a tradition that every neshama, every soul of every Jewish person was there at Mount Sinai listening to Hashem speak. And all the Gerim, all the people that would convert to the Jewish people over the years, all the neshamas, all the souls were there. And then they saw the Shekhinah descend on the top of the mountain, and they saw 4 divisions of legions of malachim, legions of angels, the north, the south, the east, the west, led by Michael and Gavriel and Raphael and Uriel. And they saw these magnificent fiery degalim, these fiery banners, these fiery flags, the visions of the angels had. And we wanted to be just like them. We wanted to be Hashem's people here on earth. Just like the Malachim or Hashem's armies in Shemayim in the heavens, we wanted to be that. We wanted to be the representative, the nation of Hashem here on earth. And we saw the Shekhinah descend. And this fire, spiritual fire, just the same kind of spiritual fire that Moshe saw in the sneh, in the burning bush, the same spiritual fire was on the top of the mountain, and the Shekhinah was in the midst of it. And we heard the sound of the shofar becoming louder and louder, growing in intensity until it reached the greatest volume which people could bear, they could stand. And the fire of Har Sinai rose up to the very heavens, and the mountain smoked like a furnace. And the people trembled in fear. And Hashem took Har Sinai and he suspended it over the people. He says, if you accept the Torah, good. But if you not, you will be buried under this mountain. And it's strange, but Hashem forced us to accept the Torah. Why? Because if we had not accepted the Torah, if no nation had accepted the Torah, then there's no purpose for the world. Because the Torah is the blueprint of the world. And if there's no nation to follow the Torah, there's no point in having the world. So why should a second forced acceptance of the Torah been necessary? One of the answers is that Bnei Israel had only taken upon themselves to fulfill the Torah Shebiksav, the written Torah. But their acceptance, however, had not included the Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah, and all the numerous details and halakha which Hashem would communicate to Moshe to pass on to Bnei Israel. So Hashem forced them to accept the Torah Sheba'al Peh, also the oral Torah, which was eventually written down into the Mishnah and the Gemara. It's how we drash out all the halakha and learn how to follow the Torah and do the mitzvos. So a thick cloud enveloped the mountain, and Hashem He bent the Shemayim, he bent the heavens until they reached Har Sinai, and his Kisei HaKavod descended upon the mountain. So we live in the physical world. The Kabbalah speaks of this world as the Olam Asiya, the world of making. And above us is the Olam Yetzira, the world of formation. We see, as we look into the heavens at night, we see the stars and the planets and the suns and all, and it's the world of the Malachim, the world of the angels, all live above us in that higher world of Yetzira. But even above that, a higher world which you can't even see, not even through the most powerful telescope can we see the world of Bariah, the Olam Bariah, the world of creation. And in that world is where Hashem's Kisei Kavod is, his throne of glory, and the legions of Malachim serve him there. So Hashem somehow brought these spiritual worlds into our physical world, and we had a revelation, greater than we ever had in history of mankind. So this thick cloud enveloped the mountain, and we saw the Kisei Kavod. And it's surprising that Torah was not given amongst bright and dazzling lights, but rather in the midst of a mountain obscured by dark clouds. And the reason for this can be understood in the following mashal. Preparing for his son's wedding, the king decorated the wedding chuppah with black curtains. So this is not what is usually done for the son's wedding. The members of the royal household complain. The custom is to hang white curtains. There's a reason for my action, explained the king. The astrologers predicted that this marriage will break up in 40 days. I did not want the people to think that I was not aware of this in advance. And Chas v'shalom, but similarly Hashem did not reveal himself to Klal Yisrael among bright lights. Rather, he appeared in darkness and fire, since he knew that 40 days later, after Matan Torah, they would make the golden calf. But on Matan Torah itself, Bnei Yisrael heard, not only did they hear Hashem's voice, they saw sound waves as they emerged from Hashem's mouth. They visualized them as fiery substance. Each mitzvah, each commandment that left Hashem's mouth traveled around the entire camp and then came back to every Jew asking, do you accept upon yourself this mitzvah, this commandment, with all the halachas pertaining to it? And every Jew answered yes after each mitzvah. Finally, the fiery substance which they saw engraved itself onto the luchos. Now the luchos, the tablets, are often portrayed as these primitive stones, but they were really these perfect rectangles of sapphire, and Hashem engraved the Hebrew letters into the tablets. 5 mitzvos of 5. First of the first 5 mitzvos, the first 5 of the 10 commandments on one luchos, and the second 5 on the other. Sorry, and although the Bnei Yisrael had requested to see Hashem's glory and hear His voice, their neshamas departed from their bodies when they actually experienced the Gula revelation of this. Hashem's voice reverberated with such force that it broke cedar trees, made mountains quake, caused deers to give birth from the shock, and stripped entire forests bare. And when we saw the Shekinah and heard Hashem speak, their neshamas rushed back to their source. They rushed back out of love to reattach themselves to the Creator. And unfortunately, when your neshama leaves your body, that's what we call being nifter. That's what we call being not alive. So the nations who witnessed the commotion but did not know its cause came to Bilam the sorcerer, who was famous for his wisdom, and questioned him, is Hashem about to bring another Mabul, another flood upon the earth? And Bilam said, no. He said, the world is astir because Hashem is giving the Torah to his people. So Bnei Yisrael did not experience the full impact of the divine voice. Rather, each individual perceived it. He perceived it according to his own unique capacity to experience the Shekinah. And they passed out after each mitzvah, since this level of nevuah, this level of prophecy, exceeded their powers of perception. So one who perceives concepts that transcend his comprehension is harmed, and may even perish as a result, chas v'shalom. So the Torah itself pleaded with Hashem to restore life to Bnei Yisrael, to the Jewish people. It says, how can the universe be happy yet receiving the Torah if your sons die in the process? Is it a cause for rejoicing if the king who married off his daughter at the same time kills all the members of his household? So Hashem then sprinkled the dew, the towel of revival upon Bnei Yisrael. And this is the same towel, the same dew, which he will use in Techiyas HaMesim. He will use in that point in history, after we go into Yemot HaMashiach, the days of Mashiach, and we'll see a resurrection of the dead. Techiyas HaMesim. And Bnei Yisrael, however, still felt weak from the shock they'd experienced. And Hashem therefore filled the air with the fragrance of spices, and they got better, they recuperated, they regained their strength. Nevertheless, their fear of Hashem's voice was so great that they hastily fled to the end of the camp, a distance of 12 mil, approximately 9 miles. So Hashem's Malachim, his angels, had to transport them back to their former positions at the foot of Har Sinai to hear the next mitzvah. And after the first 2 mitzvos, the Bnei Israel were so frightened that they begged Moshe to transmit the rest of the mitzvos rather than hear Hashem's voice again. Although Hashem had known in advance that Bnei Israel would not be able to survive hearing his voice, he nevertheless granted their original request to hear his call, to hear his actual voice, to hear him speak. He did not want Klal Yisrael to claim the future. If only he had granted us a direct revelation, we never would have served idols. And then the Rex, goes on to enumerate the Esther Dibros, the Ten Commandments. It had to be astounding, incredible to hear this infinite being speak. And in the Sifchei Chaim, Rabbi Chaim Freelander, he describes that there was a path of 3 different levels of Emunah, a belief in Hashem. It started in Mitzrayim. It started in Egypt when Hashem brought on the 10 plagues. And we saw Hashem's total control of the world. And we saw how he was separating us, and he was giving us blessing as he was destroying our enemies. And that was the first step. The first level of Emunah is Pesach, is Passover, and the knowledge that Hashem is all powerful and controls every aspect of the world. The second step, Rabbi Freelander says, was at the Kriyas Yamsuf, at the splitting of the Red Sea. We saw even greater sense of Hashem's mastery over the world as he made miracle after miracle, even more than he made in Egypt. And he split the Yamsuf. And there's some midrashim even say he split it into 12 different parts and then dries up the bottom of the sea so we could walk. And even inside of that, there was miracles. If someone was thirsty, a nice little water spring would pop up. Like fruit trees grew if someone was hungry, and they could see into the waters, and they could see the animals underneath the water being all held back, and greater miracles than we even experienced in Egypt. And then we saw our enemies chase after us. We saw the Mitzrayim, the Egyptians who enslaved us for so many years and tormented us, and we saw them punished. And we saw Hashem is not only does he bring justice on the wicked, he rewards the good. And we were rewarded as our enemies perished. And we saw the second level of Emunah. And our belief in Hashem grew. And then the third level, Rabbi Freelander says, is at Har Sinai. At the giving of the Torah, which is third, the highest madrega of Emunah, where we actually heard Hashem speak to us, direct revelation of Hashem communicating to us and giving us the Torah. And Shavuot is this beautiful holiday where we so anticipate. We start counting on the second night of Pesach, the second night of Passover. We count for 49 days to reach that amazing height of the 50th day where we go L'mayla min hateva, we go out into the supernatural, and we have Hashem's Torah, this infinite, amazing thing of wisdom, this body of wisdom that he's given us. And so may all the Jewish people rekindle that love and that excitement of listening to an infinite being speak to us, and we can learn his amazing Torah on this Shavuos. And may we get to that final Geulah, final revelation where he takes us out of this Gullus that's going on for so long, 220 years of this Gullus Edom, this Roman exile. And he will bring us all back home to Eretz Yisrael, and he'll send this Mashiach to teach us the wonders and secrets of his Torah and how to do all the mitzvahs. And maybe we will get to hear Hashem speak to us again in this great revelation of Matan Torah, the giving of Torah. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you back again soon on Sweet and Good Torah.